Good?
Yeah.
All right, coming to you live from the KREM 2 Plus streaming room right now, joined by Amanda Roley. Some big breaking news today out of Pullman, and something we weren't expecting at all, as Jimmy Rogers is leaving Washington State to take the head coach job at Iowa State, a job that just came open a few hours prior today. Obviously moved very quickly, and now Washington State needs a new athletic director and a new head coach. Certainly some stunning news out of Washington State today. I don't think any of us saw this coming. A 6-6 season for Jimmy Rogers in his one season at Washington State, and now he heads to the Big 12 as the head coach of Iowa State. Pretty shocking day, to say the least.
Yeah, and Andrew, you just got off the air with breaking news. I mean, matter of minutes, we're able to find out, hey, we confirmed this. I want to take a look how you confirmed that right from ESPN there. Talk me through that. I mean, I want to hear your reaction because you've been working with Jimmy Rogers. You've been on the sidelines all season long. So when you saw that, what were your first thoughts?
Well, certainly it had come about a little bit earlier today when Matt Campbell accepted the job at Penn State. A few people in Iowa said, keep an eye on Jimmy Rogers at Washington State as a potential replacement. Nobody really thought they were serious. Nobody thought, that this was something that could happen. Obviously, Coach Rogers has some ties at Iowa State, has some ties in that athletic department because this moved extremely quickly. As you see, Pete Thamel had only just put out the tweet that it was officially done at Penn State for Matt Campbell. And then an hour or less than an hour later, Jimmy Rogers is the head coach at Iowa State. And Iowa State moved pretty quickly announcing it as well.
They did. So not only do we see that tweet, but then you're like, well, check it out. I mean, you're yelling in the newsroom, you guys, look at this.
Yeah,
so let's take a look.
We're trying to confirm everything. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's official. And he's in Iowa State colors. Certainly moved very fast. I don't think any of us saw this coming, especially this quick, but Iowa State moved quickly, and now we'll see how quick WSU can move on to find their next head coach.
I mean, this kind of came out of the blue. I mean, like I said, you've been there all season long covering the Cougs. Was there any whispers that you heard about? I mean, any talk amongst the team, anything that could have alluded to, hey, he's moving on?
Certainly not. And we can go back to Jimmy Rogers' introductory press conference when he said, the only reason I came to this job was I can see myself being here for a long time. He spent 19 years at South Dakota State, won them an FCS national championship. The goal was to try and get Washington State back to that national championship level. I don't think he himself had any inclination that he'd be moving on to a Power 4 job this quickly, and just kind of a windstorm here with Campbell leaving for Penn State today and then Iowa State calling. And, coaches, they all have dreams of coaching at that high of a level, and I'm sure Coach Rogers would have liked to have done a better job in his short time at Washington State, but, that's a hard phone call to turn down.
Sure. And you alluded to this. You were there capturing his first moments with WSU, and you looked back in the archives, and there's a few comments that he made about, well, I'll let maybe his words speak for themselves. Let's take a look.
I'm about people, and I'm about as loyal as it gets. And I know that word has been thrown around here, and people don't want to hear it. But I don't know if you could show that after 19 years in one place, building the national championship program day after day. So I do plan to do that here.
Well, there you go. Quite interesting stuff there, right? But, I mean, if you go back in time, Jake Dickert had preached loyalty, had preached staying with this program, had preached finishing the season when John Mateer decided to leave for Oklahoma, when some of the coaches were getting courted elsewhere. Jake Dickert was firm, you need to try and finish the season. We started this thing. We got to finish it. And then Jake Dickert leaves for Wake Forest before the bowl game. So here we are again, poor Washington State, a second year in a row. Wow.
Yeah, it feels like deja vu.
Yeah.
I feel like, it's no secret. I'm a diehard Coug fan, and I'm looking for the comments that are flooding in. And this is just a huge shakeup for another year, deja vu, where our head coach, sayonara, Cougs. You're in the rearview mirror. And I can only imagine how the rest of Coug Nation is feeling, but the instability that just comes with this departure, it to me, I feel like it can only hurt the team. I mean, how can you build a program without at least your head coach sticking around for at least another year? I mean, what do you think about that? How do you think that's going to play out?
It's certainly crazy, Amanda, when you also think that Washington State doesn't have an athletic director right now.
Right.
Ann McCoy was let go just over a month ago. John Harlow is the interim athletic director, and he's unfortunately now going to be pushed into the same exact spot that Ann McCoy is, where you have to conduct a national search, try and find a head football coach that's going to lead this program, when Mr. Harlow may not even end up being in the future of this athletics department. So it's certainly a crazy situation for everyone involved. And when it comes to the team, you look at a guy like Zevi Eckhouse. He's been here for 2 years and will have already had 2 different coordinators, 2 different head coaches in the 2 years he's been here. It's unbelievable. He's going to have a whole new staff leading him into this final game of the season, the bowl game. And it's exactly what happened in the Holiday Bowl last year when Pete Callaghan had to take over for Jake Dickert. So just an unfortunate set of circumstances yet again here for WSU.
Yeah, and you talked about the Holiday Bowl. We won't know until the 7th, right, of where we might be going. Where WSU is bowl eligible. But does that mean the team's going to go without Coach Rogers leading the squad?
That is correct. It appears that Coach Rogers is headed to Ames right now. He's going to have an introductory press conference here next week. And then for right now, Jesse Bobbitt, the defensive coordinator at Washington State, very, very close with Jimmy Rogers, but he will stay and will lead the team into the bowl game. Right now, a lot of projections say that WSU will play in the New Mexico Bowl, which will be on December 27th. But obviously, it's been a whirlwind because, Amanda, earlier this week I was down with Coach Rogers and he was introducing the next class of Cougars, and now he's not going to be there to welcome them to Pullman in the spring.
Yeah. I found it interesting. I mean, this is just me reading between the lines. I pulled up what was his last tweet, and he had said, "Hey, just signed, I think 24 new sign-on, 28 for the next class." And he goes, that last line, I think I shouted out. The last line was like, "Looking forward to the future." Oh, it's like, well, did we know? I mean, I'm sure the big question is always, how long was this going on, right? Now, you brought up the interim head coach that's going to be leading. Do you have any guesses on who could be following Coach Rogers? I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, there's certainly a lot of interesting candidates. I think if you're John Harlow, your first call has to be to Jason Eck at New Mexico.
Okay.
He just had a great season. He was just at Idaho. Now, he did just sign an extension at New Mexico, so his buyout is over $4 million. I don't know if Washington State is going to be able to pay that money, but there are also a lot of interesting coaches out. Former Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith was just fired at Michigan State. That's one possibility, and I know one of the finalists before WSU hired Jimmy Rogers was Brent Vegan, who is the head coach at Montana State. All 3 of those names I'd like to see in the interview process and see if those keep popping up as WSU searches for a new head coach.
You see those as strong candidates for bringing it in. Is there any possibility that you would, potentially be optimistic that somebody would rise up within the current staff at WSU?
Certainly a possibility. If you look at WSU's defense this year, Jesse Bobbitt did an unbelievable job with this defense. I mean, 4 out of the last 5 games of the season, the Cougar defense held opposing offenses under 10 points. That's extraordinary. So I certainly think it would behoove WSU to give him an interview, but he is also very loyal to Coach Rogers, and there's a possibility that Coach Bobbitt may be headed to Ames as well. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of comes of this, but I think that would be the one strong candidate internally that might get an interview.
All right, our sports director making that pick right there. Now, I do want to ask you, I mean, I think a lot of Cougar fans, the big question even that came up when Coach Dickert left is the why, right? I mean, we just heard back to the archives of Coach Rogers talking about loyalty. So then why, what led him to go beyond? And I think with Coach Dickert, he had bigger and better things that came across the board, and he wanted to continue to evolve in his coaching career. So I have to ask about the salary, right? So I think we looked it up. Coach Rogers' salary was about $1.5 million with a length of 5-year contract. I mean, that's pretty low for the conference. What sort of context can you give to that as far as, where the state of WSU athletics are? Could salary have been a factor?
Well, certainly, I think it could have, and not just salary, but the resources involved when it comes to NIL. I mean, now that Coach Rogers is headed to Iowa State, that's a Big 12 school with a ton of resources, a ton of booster money, a ton of funds available to him right away, and the transfer portal is about to open at the end of December, and he can just go crazy. Whereas at WSU, you know, the Cougar Collective does a great job, no doubt about it, but they're still kind of working and building it from the bottom up. And right now, WSU isn't quite in the same hemisphere as a Big 12 school. And so I think it's going to come with time as more things. But as we saw earlier this year, the athletic department was in pretty dire straits. Major cuts were made to the track and field program. You know, there's hardly any more sprinting and hurdling opportunities. There's no more field in the track and field program. So obviously money has been a big issue. It's another reason why maybe Ann McCoy is no longer the athletic director, because WSU needs to have a fundraiser as an athletic director to go out to the boosters, to the alumni, and say, hey, we really need money to stay competitive in today's landscape of college athletics. And that's just kind of the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, kind of speaking to the fundraising efforts, it sounds like there's got to be a coach that sees that vision too. Yeah. Right? That's on board with that vision.
Sure. And, you know, bringing a coach like a Brent Vegan, who from the FCS level, which is exactly where Coach Rogers was, you know, he'd be taking a step up a level. So there'd be a little bit more resources available to him to be able to bring in certain players and maybe do some more things than maybe a Montana State would be able to do. But it all comes down to fit. And, you know, coaches these days, they see the dollar figures, they see the resources available, and, you know, it looks a little bit better than it does in Pullman. And I think it's going to take some time before Washington State is able to get on that competitive level.
Sure. Andrew, I'm hoping we can do a little bit of a deep dive. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to kind of look more in depth at this story as a whole. And I think a part of that is Coach Rogers' history. Kind of start me out with what are the key components that made him a top candidate that secured a job here as the head coach at WSU?
Yeah, well, you know, Jimmy Rogers played at South Dakota State, so he was a Jackrabbit through and through, ended up on the coaching staff there right after he graduated, and, you know, like I said, stayed in South Dakota for 19 years.
Wow.
Eventually took
over. Would have
over.
Loved 19 years with him in Pullman.
I know, right? That would have been nice. But 19 years there, he took over in 2023 from a longtime head coach, John Stiegelmeier, and won a national championship. Now, obviously, that team had been built for years. A lot of guys had played together for a long time, and they were well suited to go win that national championship. But, you know, an undefeated season, national championship in your first year as head coach, that's certainly going to put you on some people's radars. And the following year led the Jackrabbits to the FCS semifinals. Obviously, they couldn't get the job done, but a young guy, you know, very intense, very focused on winning, certainly stuck out in the interview process when Ann McCoy was conducting that. And, you know, he said he fell in love with Pullman. It was a lot like where he was at in Brookings, you know, small town, big college town. Right. And he felt he would fit in well there. But at the end of the day, when the Power Four comes knocking, it's hard to turn it down.
Yeah, you gotta answer that call. How do you think, have you seen on Twitter, I know we both, and you have your phone, right?
Yeah.
I know, like let's take a quick
crazy.
look. I mean, have you heard anything from any of the players at this point as far as reaction? I mean, I don't know. I remember the Coach Leach era. He kind of locked down on any social media.
Yeah.
So maybe these players might have a little more.
So far, haven't seen anything from players. Now, we did see yesterday that quarterback Jackson Potter entered the transfer portal.
Like what? Like why?
I don't think.
Stop leaving.
Now, I don't think any of that had to do with Coach Rogers' departure, as I think this was in the last couple days, and it was probably very hush-hush until everything got sorted out with Matt Campbell at Penn State. But, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see how different this team looks, because remember, Coach Rogers brought a lot of guys from South Dakota State in last year. Kirby Voorhees, the Cougar running back, who was supposed to be there next year as the starting running back, you know, was supposed to have a big year. I doubt he stays now. I'm sure Coach Rogers would like to have him at Iowa State, and there may be a few other guys on this roster who he tries to poach and take with him. And, you know, as we've said, with the resources in Ames right now, it's probably going to look a little bit more beneficial for those guys to leave once again and follow Coach Rogers.
Yeah. And again, you talked about, money. We got to bring them in.
Yeah.
That's been a struggle with WSU athletics to stay competitive, to recruit top of the line coaches. I mean, even under the interim athletic director's belt, it just seems like this is an uphill battle. I mean, do you get that sense? I mean, when you're on the field, when you see these guys, I mean, it's just money's the big feat.
Right. Yeah. And I believe it is. And you can go back to when WSU hired a new men's basketball coach. They offered the job to Matt Logie at Montana State, and he turned it down. So, and WSU is a bigger level than Montana State, and I'm sure there were more resources available, but it's just not at the level right now that a coach feels comfortable staying at for a long time. And, that's unfortunate because what a storied program that WSU has. They're entering the Pac-12 conference, which is going to be strong for football. San Diego State and Boise State had great seasons this year. Those are two teams that WSU is going to be battling against for years to come now. And, it'll be interesting to see now with this new conference, with the new money involved, with the new media rights deal, which, us as CBS is involved in, to see kind of how all of that is divvied up among the new Pac-12 schools. And, hopefully WSU is able to become more competitive in this space and draw maybe a coach who's willing to stay a long time here.
Sure. There are still a lot of unanswered questions, and I want to give us a chance to be transparent with viewers who have the same questions.
Yeah.
Andrew, let's talk through the calls that you've made, the people you've reached out to, and what questions we're still trying to answer at this point.
Well, the number one question I had is who is going to stay and coach the team.
Yeah,
and,
should I stay or should I go now?
Because, like I said, large majority of this staff all followed Coach Rogers from South Dakota State, very family-oriented staff, so you'd think it would be hard for any of them to stay, but good on Jesse Bobbitt for taking on this role, stepping up. We'll hear from Coach Bobbitt on Sunday when WSU finds out where they'll be playing for the bowl game, so that'll be a very interesting press conference.
Are you going to be in Pullman for that, or where are you going to land?
It'll either be in person or over Zoom. It kind of depends. The last couple of years, it's been over Zoom.
Okay.
But with this kind of news coming down today, we might end up in the Cougar
Love to
complex.
get you in a room, Andrew. Love to get you in the room, for sure.
But, we reached out to the SID, Bill Stevens down there, and, just waiting to see if there's an official statement from the school. We haven't gotten one yet,
and no telling when, right?
No telling when.
Both of us have called Bill.
Yes.
Hey, just wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
And the immediate thing that they're doing right now is that nationwide search for the coach, right? But as far as a statement, I wonder, that always makes me think, is the university shocked? Like how much notice they got?
I'm sure they are. It just seems like everything moves so quickly. And now, poor John Harlow, he took over as interim athletic director and probably thought, let's just, get these guys into that next year, heading into the Pac-12. Let's, do some fundraising. And then whoever comes in as the new athletic director can take over. And now, guess what? You got to lead a head football coaching search right now, right before Christmas. So crazy turn of events.
I just wonder, is this the new, as a fan, is this the new norm? With the movement of the transfer portal and, coaches taking off and, moving on to other things. Should we just expect rebuilding a program year after year? This was only 1 year. He started in 2020, just last year. Yep. We saw the video of him getting his jersey from Ann McCoy.
Ann McCoy, and both of them are gone now.
So,
unbelievable to think about. And, I really do think this is the new norm. You look all around college football right now. Memphis's coach left. All these teams who had great, James Madison, who just beat WSU, their coach just left. I really think this is the new normal. Lane Kiffin, whose team is going to play in the college football playoff, just left for the LSU job for more money. It's just crazy to see the state of college athletics right now. Like I said, it's unfortunate for a smaller school like WSU, but hopefully as they, get a little bit of windfall from this new conference, the new media rights deal, and as the Cougar Collective continues to pound away, hopefully they can get back and be competitive in this crazy new landscape.
Yeah. So let's recap, and if Emily can give me a look at how we doing on time. Are we right? All right, we're plugging away. So let's recap. So Coach Jimmy Rogers, out.
Headed to Iowa State.
And as we speak, right? He's making the move, right? I mean, he's making the move. And we can expect to hear comment from him, press conference here coming up.
I'm sure it'll happen next week in Ames. Okay. And then Sunday, it is scheduled that we will hear from WSU once they find out where they will be playing in their bowl game. Yep. I would suspect that it will be Jesse Bobbitt, the interim head coach, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions for him right now about where his head is at. One of his best friends, a guy who brought him to Pullman with him this year is leaving, and it very well could be that this is his last game as a Cougar coach. So very, very interesting times. But expect to hear from Coach Bobbitt on Sunday and Coach Rogers next week. Okay,
so we got Bobbitt up on deck here. Yep. I think that just about covers it. Yeah. And the next steps, we're hoping to get a statement from WSU Athletics and their response, not just the coaching staff, but from WSU Athletics and what that vision looks like going forward. You guys are working hard. I know you're keeping an eye on Twitter, keeping an eye on all the things.
And, it's also interesting with, WSU President Elizabeth Cantwell. She only just started. Right. And, she already, made the move to get Ann McCoy, or to move Ann McCoy out of her role as athletic director, and now she's going to have to be involved in the interview process for a new head football coach as well. So it'll be interesting to see her in that role for maybe one of the first times in her career. So certainly very, very interesting times in Pullman.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for breaking it down for us. I mean, this is a huge update. End of the season. Pretty decent season for the Cougs, but we'll see what the future holds.
We're here again. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Unbelievable.
All right. Thanks for tuning in here on KREM 2 Plus, and we'll continue to keep you updated here on KREM and KREM 2 Plus. You can also download the app KREM 2 Plus free on Amazon, Fire, Roku, and Apple TV. Have a great night.